Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another week of Trauma Recovery University. I am your host, Athena Moberg, and with us in the green room, of course, is your incredible co-host and my esteemed colleague, Bobby Parrish. And this is Live Q&A Monday. We are so excited to be receiving all of your tweets, and everyone is talking back and forth with one another, and we're hoping to receive some more questions so that we can answer your questions today on Live Q&A Monday. So if you are not familiar with this broadcast, I want to welcome you and let you know that we do 3 Twitter chats a week. This particular one has a video component, hence the live Google Hangout on air, which you are watching right now, or the replay that you're watching on YouTube. So you can also find us over on our Roku TV channel at Trauma Recovery University. We also have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Trauma Recovery University TV. And this week's topic is intrusive thoughts. What are intrusive thoughts? Are they the same as triggers? Are they the same as flashbacks? How does everything play into one another? Can a trigger come from an intrusive thought? Can an intrusive thought cause a trigger? Is it always caused by a trigger? Do those intrusive thoughts always cause an emotional flashback? What is an emotional flashback? How does all of this play into our recovery journey from childhood abuse? And I just want to really quickly tell you that if you struggle with intrusive thoughts, if you have a really negative self-talk and you have like a defeatist mentality, or you struggle with thinking like, no one's going to like me, I'm definitely not pretty, you avoid mirrors, you don't look at yourself and think good thoughts about yourself, you avoid looking at yourself, you avoid thinking about yourself, you sort of replay the same old tapes in your head every time you get close to succeeding in an area or breaking some sort of a personal barrier, something happens and you self-sabotage. This is the broadcast for you. This video is going to help you. We're going to unpack all of this. We have a complimentary downloadable one-page resource, as always, every single week, and that is over on traumarecoveryuniversity.com. Click on the tab that says downloadables. You can also go to our project website, which is nomoreshameproject.com. Find the tab that says downloadables. Join the conversation. Send us a tweet using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. We have a couple of other Twitter chats during the week as well. We are so happy you have joined us, and we just want to welcome you, especially if you have found us on a podcast. So if you're listening, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, if any of those are how you're listening, head on over to traumarecoveryuniversity.com or nomoreshameproject.com and check out our videos and leave us a comment, send us an email, connect with us. And as always, if you're looking to get plugged into a safe community, you are in the right place. We welcome new people in every single week, and you can do that by following 4 simple steps, which is located down in the comment section of every single video on this channel. So when in doubt, go to the comment section of a video and find out how to get plugged into safe community. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Bobby Parrish, and she's going to issue a trigger warning and update us on all kinds of other awesome stuff. Take it away, Bobby.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to let you know that if you're watching us look down while someone else is talking, while Athena's talking, I'm looking down, and we're on our phones. It's not because we're texting friends, it's because we're tweeting.
So we're answering your questions.
Yes, we're answering your questions. So, don't worry. We're both still here listening and paying attention. So I would like to issue a trigger warning for tonight's broadcast. We do talk about childhood abuse. We do talk about childhood sexual abuse. So it can be a triggering tape to watch. It can be triggering if you're watching us live. If you're watching and you do get triggered, we would encourage you to reach out to our friends at RAIN. That's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. They can be reached at 1-800-656-HOPE, HOPE, or they have a crisis chat feature on their website, and that is RAINN, RAINN, 2Ns.org. If you're in the UK, you can reach out to the Samaritans. They have email support specifically for sexual abuse survivors, and you can contact Joe, J-O, at samaritans.org. You can also get more information on their website, samaritans.org. And they are accessible anywhere in the UK. And RAINN is accessible. Their crisis chat feature is accessible worldwide, but the 1-800 number is only accessible from Canada and the United States. We would also like to encourage you, if you are in crisis, to please not seek help on the Twitter stream tonight. Please don't use the hashtag #NoMoreShame and reach out this evening during this broadcast, because it's very triggering to other watchers and people who are tweeting. We encourage you to seek help, to get help. Tap into your local resources, contact RAINN, contact the Samaritans. But seeking crisis help, if you're suicidal or in crisis, on the chat stream tonight isn't something that we do encourage, because it can be very, very difficult and trigger the entire community that's watching and listening. So we are so happy that you're here with us tonight. These broadcasts, these videos, working with the survivor community. We now have probably close to about 20,000 members in our community in, what are we up to, Athena, 55, 56 countries?
No, we're in 57, I think. 57. We got Switzerland, and then one more after that, and I don't remember the exact. It's a very small country, but I forget the name of it. So, but 57 countries.
Yes. So we're so excited that all of you are here, and we are so honored that you would take time during your week to join us, whether you're watching live or you're watching one of our broadcasts on YouTube or Roku TV, or listening to one of our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. However you found us, we're glad that you found us. And we have a library now of probably close to 85 hours of information for survivors of childhood abuse. And we have covered every topic from what to do when your abuser dies, to coping with medical examinations, to things like we're talking about tonight, which is the category of intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts can be applied to a lot of people who struggle with mental health issues, OCD, anxiety, PTSD, depression. It's not specific just to child abuse survivors, but because of the negative messages that we were trained with as a child, we can be particularly susceptible to intrusive thoughts. And because memories and flashbacks fit into the category of intrusive thoughts, that's a whole different ball of wax that we have to deal with. So I think this was one of those categories that when we posted, we were going to talk about it this week, because we have the same topic for all 3 of our Twitter chats. We talked about it this morning in our Twitter chat. It's at noon Pacific time at 6 p.m. in the UK. We started it more than a year ago now, just for our UK community, but anyone is welcome to join it. I don't think a lot of people knew what intrusive thoughts were, or were even aware that that was something that was going on in their lives. But once we defined it and talked about it, it was something that I can't think of one person who said in chat this morning that they couldn't relate, that they didn't have an idea of what we were talking about.
It was very active. There was a lot of activity during our chat. It was one of the most active chats we've had in a while, actually.
Yes. And, people were able to identify with, intrusive thoughts can be a picture memory. Maybe you're having a flashback or a memory of something that happened when you were a child, and it just persistently goes through your head. all day long. And sometimes at night, it's what you dream about. Or when you lay down to sleep, it's what you think about, and so you can't sleep. Or perhaps it's a thought. And this morning, a lot of people were talking about a thought like, I'm a terrible person. No one loves me. I don't belong. I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm trying to think of other things that people talked about. Everyone hates me. I'm not worth loving. And when you go back and look at those statements are so much what we were told as children. We were told that we weren't worthwhile, that we weren't lovable, that we weren't good, that the abuse that happened to us was our fault, that we had caused it. And then perhaps when we tried to disclose our abuse, we were told that we were liars, or that we were making something out of nothing, or again, that it was our fault. The infamous, well, you should have known to stay away from Uncle Joe. He's just like that. And of course, a 3-year-old knows who to stay away from, right? Like it's the victim's fault at all. Victim shaming to the highest. And then we can have intrusive action-oriented thoughts. And that is something like, and it's funny because this morning, Athena and I have been business partners for almost 2 years now. And there are still so many things we haven't talked about. But this morning I was sharing in chat that one of my intrusive thoughts, and it doesn't bother me as much anymore, but it used to really bother me, if I would go into the kitchen and I would see a kitchen knife on the counter or in the drawer, a thought would be that I needed to stab myself. And it was a repetitive, persistent, and oftentimes intrusive thoughts are negative in connotation. And certainly a thought that you need to stab yourself is negative. And she immediately piped up and said, I have that too. I thought I was the only one. And sometime we're going to do a video on the concept of I thought I was the only one, because so often when we share these, thoughts that we thought were just so weird and nobody else could possibly be as weird as us, and then we share them in chat or on one of these broadcasts and someone else says, oh my gosh, I do that. I think that. I have that thought. I have that feeling. It helps us to feel not so alone. And then there were multiple people in chat who had intrusive thoughts about cutting their hair.
I'm one of them.
I am too. I have struggled with that. And I can't say that there's anything I could attach that to. And when I wander into the kitchen and I have those thoughts about the knife, it's not like I'm suicidal. But for some bizarre reason, that's a thought that my brain latches onto. So today we're going to talk some more about defining intrusive thoughts. What are they? Where in the world do they come from? And then how do we cope with them? What are strategies that we can employ so that they are not both as persistent, so we can dismiss them from our mind much more quickly? And that reminds me, one of the components of intrusive thoughts is that feeling that we cannot control them. It's similar to the feeling that we can't control it behind an obsession or a compulsion. So if you are someone that struggles with the repetitive compulsion to wash their hands, even though you've washed your hands 20 times already, you still have that feeling, that your hands are dirty and you have to wash your hands again. That's a compulsion. That's something like you don't feel you have control over. Intrusive thoughts are typically something that we do not feel we have any control over. And so we're going to help you we're going to talk about some strategies that will help you to feel like you have more control over your intrusive thoughts. And then we're also going to talk about some ways that you can just eliminate that lie from your head altogether, from the intrusive thoughts about things like, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, This is terrible. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to have any friends. I'm never going to go anywhere. Everyone hates me. And so we're going to talk about how to tackle those lies so that they don't become intrusive thoughts. And then if the intrusive thought is there, how do we get rid of it? And how do we cope with it? Because intrusive thoughts can be very scary, especially when we don't understand where they come from. And they are just a barrage. You know, it's like being hit by shrapnel 24/7. And you can't get the thought out of your head no matter how hard you try. So we're going to talk about that some more today. Athena, is there anything else that you can think of before we jump into our one page?
Well, I wanted to just say hi to every single person that is tuning in live. We have a lot of people that are here live. We didn't have a episode last week, but the week before was probably right around the same amount of people. And you guys, it's getting more attendance. Our attendance is growing, and so thank you for sharing our links. Thank you for retweeting us. Thank you for telling your friends. Thank you for liking these videos. Thank you for commenting down below. Thank you for all of your awesome support. And we have a new person that has just joined us, and her name is Kalisha. And Kalisha, we received your email, and we have not replied to your email. And I want to personally apologize. I'm Athena. See my name right here. And it's my fault because the emails are all my responsibility right now, along with a full-time job and some writing deadlines and some projects and some stuff. And I have not really any excuse other than I have too much on my plate and I haven't responded to everybody's emails. So I'm asking for your forgiveness. And we're so excited you're here to join us for chat. And I just love seeing everybody supporting one another. Oh, Phoenix, we know you're listening. It's okay, honey. Don't apologize for anything. And everybody, you guys, we're just so excited to just be seeing you and talking to you. Sarah would like to know if we can talk about self-harm and how to help not to act on it. We are going to do a video on self-harm, actually. We're going to do a whole week, a whole episode specifically dedicated to self-harm. Tonight, we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts, and we're going to stay on that topic. But excellent question, excellent topic. You are not the only person to ask for that topic, Sarah. And we are excited to present that topic. So August wants to know, how do you know you are not suicidal? I always feel like stabbing myself when I see a sharp object. These types of intrusive thoughts, you guys, it doesn't always mean that we're suicidal. We're going to go into detail on our one page on our content, which we will put up as a screen share pretty soon. We're going to go through and answer a lot of these questions, but I just want to encourage you. I want to give you another example of an intrusive thought before we jump into content. As many of you know, I was a single mom for quite a long time. My son got a full ride academic scholarship to a college in Los Angeles. And Bobby, do you hear an echo? Am I echoing?
No, I don't hear an echo.
Okay. I feel like I might be echoing a little bit. So if I am, you guys, I apologize. So get this. He turned down his full ride scholarship. It was almost a full ride scholarship. It was pretty close. Like, I was only going to have to come up with a tiny bit because of me being a single parent and so forth. So he turned down his scholarship, and he chose to enlist in the Marine Corps during a time of war. The intrusive thoughts that followed his choice were instantly, boom, I pictured him going off into the military. Boom, coffin with an American flag on it. Boom, they're folding the flag. They're handing me the flag. Oh, I skipped the part where the guys come to your front door and they ring your doorbell and they give you the dog tags. Yeah, I skipped that part.
Right.
So those are the intrusive thoughts. And I thought I was going crazy, and I did think I was losing my mind. And this story is specifically for you, August, because you want to know, how do you know you're not suicidal? So during those times that I had these intrusive thoughts coming in, it's the same as me walking into the kitchen and seeing a knife, and like, it's like I can't help but think it. But I know for a fact that I'm not suicidal every time I look at a knife and I think those thoughts, because during the time when my son enlisted and I was thinking those thoughts, I wanted to die because I thought my son was dead. But cognitively, like, I didn't go through with any of that, and I didn't take it any farther, but I did think that I was losing my mind and that I was having a breakdown, just as I thought that I was suicidal for going into the kitchen and seeing a knife and like thinking those thoughts. But it's when you are in crisis and you are suicidal, there are components, there are specific components that go into suicidality. And we're going to go into that on a whole other video that's going to be titled Self-Harm. But for tonight, we're just going to break apart and pull apart and unpack what is an intrusive thought, the different things we can do to feel better today if we are having intrusive thoughts. And what do they mean, and where do they come from? What portion of the brain do they come from? If you haven't logged on and gotten access to our downloadable one-page resource, there is a link that will tell you more about the section of the brain where these thoughts come from, if there's like a little bit of a misfire. So go over to traumarecoveryuniversity.com and click on downloadables and search for intrusive thoughts, or you can go to our project website, nomoreshameproject.com, and click on downloadables and then find intrusive thoughts. So Bobby, I know that was a little bit of a long, what I wanted to add, but I just think it's important that we address everyone's questions and that we, let them know that there is definitely a difference between an intrusive thought and being suicidal. There is a sequence that goes along to being suicidal, you guys. And I'm trained in suicide prevention and in suicide intervention. And that's just like a training that I went through that, and Stu, Last Chance Stu, here on Twitter and on Facebook, he's actually a trainer and facilitates those trainings that I went to get certified in suicide prevention and suicide intervention. So, and it's called ASSIST, ASIST. So totally different video, very, very valid questions. Bobby, do you have any thoughts on anything that I just said, or should we?
Well, one of the things that we'll talk about when we put up the one page is how to identify an intrusive thought. And that is one of the biggest ways to take the power out of an intrusive thought, is to recognize it for what it is and be able to say, oh, well, that's just an intrusive thought. It's not that I'm suicidal. It's not that my son is dead. It's not that men are on their way to my house to tell me that my son is dead. This is an intrusive thought. And once you are able to label it as such, it does strip it of some of its power. So there is so much more that goes along with a suicidal thought than just there's a knife. I have kind of an urge to pick it up and stab myself. If it's a suicidal thought, then along with that would go hopelessness, despair, a feeling that we're in so much pain that we want to escape. Whereas with an intrusive thought, those emotions don't accompany it. It's just that weird impulse that seems to come out of nowhere in our head with simply the thought, oh, it's a knife. I feel like stabbing myself with it. There's no emotional pain, there's no despair, there's no hopelessness that goes with it. So we can identify it as an intrusive thought. And that, like I said, just that in itself can help us to set it aside and remove some of that compulsive and obsessive thought behind it. But let's go ahead and pull up the one page. Again, as Athena said, these are on our website, nomoreshameproject.com. There's a tab that says downloadables. Click on it and you can get access to all of our one pages. Athena and I have been putting these together with an effort of providing you with just a one-page, quick and simple summary of information about the topic on the top page, and then strategies to cope with that topic on the second half of the page. And so you have at your fingertips information and help anytime that you need it about particular topics. One of the things that Athena and I both struggled with as we worked in recovery was finding accessible information and education in layman's terms that we could find that had actionable strategies to help us feel better. And so that is why we put together the one pages, and they are all yours to access, print off, stick in a binder or folder, tap them up on your bulletin board, whatever it is that helps you, so that in the moment when you need the help, it's there. So let me do my,
Grace Hope, which, by the way, hi Grace Hope. I know we didn't say hi to you yet. She says a new doctor today told her that it was not normal to not be able to change or redirect her thoughts, and it's not normal for them to play nonstop. We are going to be going over this, Grace Hope, and I just want to encourage you that while your new doctor might not have a very kind and compassionate bedside manner, we're here to educate you and support you and comfort you and help you to feel more equipped, so that when you're met with doctors who just sort of spew out things like that, just matter-of-factly, you can have a little bit of knowledge and comfort to back that up so you can seek the truth. So I'm proud of you for being here after receiving some sort of information like that. And we just want to make sure that you're not alone. And while it may not be normal for us to not be able to stop our thoughts, and it's not normal for things to be in our minds, I don't know a lot of people who are normal, and we are who we are, and that's why we're here. We're here to learn and grow and get new tools and new information that will help us and comfort us and empower us to make healthier choices. So I hope that helps a little bit, Grace Hope.
As I talk here, the screen share is going to come up, but I like to replace the word normal with the norm, meaning the average person's behavior. Okay, so intrusive thoughts are not the norm. I understand that. But for within the category of survivors, intrusive thoughts are the norm. Okay, the vast majority of survivors of childhood abuse have intrusive thoughts. They are our norm. They are our reality. And the fact that you have them and you can't control them does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad survivor. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's one more sign that you suffered horrible, damaging abuse when you were a child. That's it. That's all it is. And you can work on it, and we can all work on it together. But as a couple people have already mentioned on the Twitter stream, might be time to find a new doctor if you have that option, Grace. Some of us don't have those options. But if you have that option, yeah, I'm thinking, wow, that's not real helpful or supportive.
Hey, Sarah says intrusive thoughts are like a virus that attacks our thoughts.
Oh, that's good.
That is a perfect visual and such a great analogy, Sarah. Yes. Like, hello, if you catch a virus on your computer, the normal everyday computer, I'm thinking of it like when we catch viruses, like when we open up something or click on a bad link or whatever. Yeah, when our computer's fully healthy and running exactly the way as it should be, when nothing has ever affected it, it's not normal. But when we attract a virus, or we click on a bad link or something and we get a virus, that's just something that we take the necessary steps, and we are more careful in the future. We change our course. We do things a little bit differently. We take the necessary steps of precaution, and we move on. It's not like we let it, oh, well, I guess I have to throw that computer in the garbage now because it got a virus. I mean, You
That's
know?
perfect, Athena. We don't throw ourselves out because something doesn't work.
No, we learn and we get knowledge and we research and we get into community with other people who can reflect back to us the growth that we're experiencing. So,
Yep.
gosh, that was a great analogy, Sarah. Thank you. You gave me so many different ideas in that.
Let's take a look at the one page. I have it up on the screen. Athena, can you see it okay?
Yes, it looks awesome.
Okay. Well, you made it looky awesome, so
Thank you.
you're persistently hired. Okay.
Yay!
So, intrusive thoughts are unwanted, persistent, and usually negative thoughts that feel outside of our control. Okay, they can be statements, like we talked about earlier, like, I'm a terrible person, no one is going to love me, everybody hates me, I'm never going to get this right, I'm never going to be loved. See, look how well I know these. All of those things. And this morning in chat, somebody said something about, it's like I have a little tape that plays inside my head. And you know, the reality is that most of the intrusive thoughts of this nature, the ones that are statements, that if you look at them, they are things that you were taught or told by your abuser and their enablers when you were a child. 9 times out of 10, they are things that you were taught and told as a child. And you learned them so well because learning them was awfully hard not to do given the environment you were in, plus learning some of them kept you safe. And now they're on repeat, on rewind, on persistent rewind in your head. So they can be a thought statement or they can be action oriented. My hands are dirty, I need to wash my hands again. There's a knife, I need to stab myself. You look at yourself in the mirror, I need to cut my hair. Where's a pair of scissors? I want to cut my hair, I need to cut my hair. Intrusive thoughts can also be memories of our abuse that cycle through our head repeatedly, and we feel helpless to stop or control them. So if you're trying to go through your day, but every time you turn around, you're being hit by a flashback, and this is not something that usually is associated with dissociation. It's just that slideshow or, 9-second Vine clip. That's what they are. Is that right, Athena? Vines are 9 seconds?
I believe so.
Yeah, see that. I'm admitting I don't know much about Vine, but Vine is about like a 9-second loop of tape, and it's looped, and it just plays on repeat over and over and over and over again. It's important to keep in mind this next paragraph. The foundation underneath intrusive thoughts is almost always flawed. Okay? So if the thought is a statement or a prompt for action, they're based on a negative foundation. They're not true. And if they're prompting you to do something repetitively, like wash your hands, pick up a knife, there's no basis in reality for those. Your hands are not dirty. You've already washed them 4 or 5 times. They're not dirty. You don't have to go back for the 15th time and double check that you locked the back door before you can go to bed. You don't have to, there's no reason for you to pick up the knife and stab yourself. There's not based in reality. So the foundation behind an intrusive thought is flawed. You are not flawed. The foundation that the thought is sitting upon or the impulsive action is sitting upon is flawed. An integral part of combating intrusive thoughts is dismissing them because you realize they're not true. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about strategies down below. And something that's important to keep in mind is this doesn't apply to intrusive thoughts that are memories of our childhood. Okay? So I'm not saying when you have intrusive loops of video that go through your head or you have that slideshow of memories of your abuse that they're flawed. And you can't just dismiss them as not true. That's a whole different ball of wax. That's something that you need to, with your safe person, with someone who's therapeutic, review them, process them, and move on to working on other parts of your trauma. Some intrusive thinking is rooted in negative statements we were taught by our abusers and or their enablers, such as the thought, no one loves me. Other intrusive thoughts are due to obsessions or compulsions, such as the repetitive hand washing, needing to check the front door. But some intrusive thoughts have no understandable relationship in our life experience, such as an impulse to cut our hair every time we see scissors. They don't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. And we're going to talk a little bit about the part of our brain that controls aspects of the intrusive thoughts here when we get down into our coping and strategies here. And the first one is to learn to recognize and label intrusive thoughts for what they are. And calling them what they are strips them of some of their power. Okay, so when you hear that voice in your head say, you're worthless. Oh, well, that's an intrusive thought. It's not true. Or if it's action-oriented, hey, this is an intrusive thought. I don't really need to wash my hands again. Okay, so just learning to recognize it and that it is not true is so important. And Athena and I talk often about a 3-step strategy for changing thoughts, patterns, beliefs. Okay, see it, stop
it, change it.
Yes, and the first part is seeing it. Okay, you have to be able to see that you're having an intrusive thought. And I recognize that this is much easier said than done, okay? Many of us have had these kinds of intrusive thoughts since we were knee-high to grasshoppers. They are as integral a part of our thinking as trying to see what time of day it is. They're just there. They seem normal. They seem a part of us. And it's hard for us sometimes, especially if we're in the beginning stages of our recovery, to even believe that they're not true. But that's the first step to recovery, is seeing them for what they are. Oh, hey, I see you. You're an intrusive thought. That's not true. And then, stopping it is, okay, that's not true. I don't want to think that anymore. And instead, I'm going to focus my brain on this. And that's the change it. Because you can't just stop an intrusive thought and then leave that vacuum to be filled up by something else that our brain is going to pick and put in there. Because guess what? Chances are high if we leave it to our brain to do, it's going to fill it with another intrusive thought. So instead, we have to take that vacuum space and fill it with something positive. Okay? So that's either going to be an activity, a belief, a statement that is positive, supportive, and true. And that will help you to combat the intrusive thoughts.
Hey, Bobby.
Uh-huh.
I would like to make a suggestion. I completely forgot to mention this on the one. I almost added it to the one page, actually, and then I just decided I wanted to mention it. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with Jody Amen. She's one of our colleagues. She records YouTube videos on mental health, kind of like Katie Morton. She works a lot with people with eating disorders, anxiety, PTSD, self-love. She does retreats. Anyway, it's jodyaman.com, JODIAMAN. She talks about when we have specifically for people who are OCD, that live with obsessive compulsive disorder. She says a wonderful way that she has helped people not only practice self-love, but to diminish the thoughts, the intrusive thoughts that perpetuate your obsessive compulsive disorder, is by acknowledging the thought, and I think she uses the word thank, perhaps, like thanking that thought for being there, because perhaps there was a reason for it to be there previously, but there's no reason for it to be there now. And then just dismissing it, acknowledging the thought, thanks for being here, but no need, and then moving on and dismissing the thought. And I live with a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm not diagnosed, but I do have some traits and some symptoms that I recognize in myself. I count my vitamins. I do certain vitamins in a certain order. I do wash my hands quite often. It manifests itself in a couple of different ways, most of it digitally, like when I'm working online. But I've tried that lately over the past like month and a half or so, and it actually helps me. Like, I don't shame myself for it and wish that I wasn't doing it and get down on myself because it's happening. I just sort of acknowledge that I'm doing it, and then I just sort of leave it at that. Like, I move on, like, okay, I did that. All right, well, I mean, I'm acknowledging that I'm doing that. Thanks. Okay, well, I'm just going to move on now. So
Right.
I think that that's really powerful, to not put a value on any particular thing that you're doing that you don't approve of. Like, don't label something as being good or bad if you're not sure why you're doing it, or if it's bothering you or what have you. If we don't label it bad and we just sort of acknowledge it and then dismiss it, it's very powerful. And then you are practicing self-love while doing that, because you're not condemning yourself.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that a couple bullet points down here, and that is so important that we not label. You know, and some of the things that we do now that we've learned to do that other people might consider to be not normal or not healthy, we learned to do as children because they were actually protective. Okay, so as a child, I learned to dissociate. Is that helpful now as an adult? No. But it helped me when I was a child. As a child, I learned to socially isolate because I felt safer and I felt less threatened as a child to do that. Now, as an adult, if I plan something socially, I have a million thoughts screaming in my head, no, we don't want to socialize. We want to stay home where it's safe. Well, like Athena said, one of the strategies that I do to cope with that is say thank you. You know, at one point you were really helpful. You helped me. But I don't need those thoughts now, but thank you. And then I move on to planning the social event and attending and going anyway. At one point, most of those thoughts served us. But as adults, you know, now, like most coping strategies, they're a double-edged sword. And now as adults, they don't serve us that well. But at some point we did. And so we can't shame ourselves for having adopted that. And it's so important that we not shame ourselves.
It
Good
is.
golly, we have a stack of shame, you know, stories high. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. Grounding strategies can be very helpful in coping with intrusive thoughts because they get us out of our head and into our body. So this is particularly helpful if your intrusive thoughts are those slideshows or Vine type videos of your abuse when you were younger. Okay? So if those are running through your head and you're just living completely in your head, go run your hands over cold water, stand outside, and, you know, let the breeze run across your face, you know, be aware of all the sights and the sounds. If you can't go outside, sit on your sofa and count every red item you can see in the room. Okay? The idea is to get yourself out of your head and into your body by tapping into your senses. Okay? And sometimes, and I think it was Laura who mentioned it here on the stream just a few minutes ago, sometimes saying things out loud.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So if you're trying to ground yourself, you're sitting on your sofa, okay, and I happen to be sitting on my sofa right now in my loft. Okay, I see a red pencil box over there that has my son's colored pencils in it. Oh, I see one of his red shirts over there. That's in a pile of things that are going to Goodwill. Oh, there's my red sweatshirt. There's a red ribbon on the bulletin board that my son won in field day. Okay, as I'm doing that, I'm activating my eyesight. I'm activating my hearing because I'm talking out loud. And it's really hard to do that kind of thing, to engage that kind of grounding strategy, and yet still pay attention to your intrusive thoughts. Okay? And that's what you want to do. You want to completely focus yourself someplace else, typically in a sense type matter, and get out of your head. And that will help you to cope with those intrusive thoughts. Distraction is also a powerful strategy for coping with intrusive thoughts. Find something else that is very engaging, okay? And that's an important part of it. It can't be just, wow, I don't want to have these intrusive thoughts, so I'm going to, go collect all the garbage in the garbage cans throughout the house and take them outside. Well, it's not really engaging. Instead, focus on something like, what's your favorite music? Put on your headphones, listen to your favorite music. Put in a DVD or, get onto Amazon Prime and put on a movie that you just really like or that you've been craving and wanting to see. Phone a friend that you really enjoy talking to. So distract yourself with something that it is pleasant and that is very engaging to shift your mind onto. And it's, it's kind of a similar thing that we as parents do with a 2 or 3-year-old when they're having a hard time with a behavior that we don't want them to engage in. We distract them and perhaps give them a novel toy or, even take them into a different room in the house away from what it is that they really think they want to do, which they shouldn't do, take all the covers off of the outlets so they can stick their fingers in the outlets, and just get them focused on something else. And then you will find that even when that movie is done or those songs are stopped playing, that you have interrupted the cycle of the intrusive thoughts.
It's similar to EMDR, how we interrupt the pattern with the bilateral. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what you're doing. You're interrupting. If you think of it a little bit like an electrical circuit, you're interrupting, you're taking that electricity, instead of it going to power your intrusive thoughts, it's going to go and power something else. Now, this is what we talked about, what Athena especially was pointing out a few minutes ago. Self-judgment is never a good strategy for coping with intrusive thinking. And emphasis on the word never. You guys, we have so much shame to deal with. We have so much judgment coming from outside of us and sometimes coming from inside of us. We don't need any more of that. We're trying to work towards self-compassion, self-love, self-worth. So don't beat yourself up if you're having intrusive thoughts. I know it's easy to do because that is what we were trained to do. We were trained to modulate our own thinking and behaviors as children because we thought if we behaved perfectly, we're very quiet, we're very smart, we're always perfect, then we wouldn't get abused. And we do that still as adults. We try to silence ourselves. We try and squelch the parts of us that we think are bad. But it's not helpful in terms of anything. It's never good for anything to shame ourselves, to judge ourselves, to berate ourselves. The best case scenario is to, like Athena talked about, okay, well, I just had an intrusive thought. It's not true. I'm moving on. Okay, so I just counted my vitamins for the 5th time today. all right, maybe I won't do it tomorrow. You know, like Athena said, not to label it as bad behavior. Just take a note of it and move on to something else. And the worst case scenario is that self-judgment itself can become an intrusive thought. Okay, so we're walking through our day, and all of a sudden we have that intrusive thought of, there's the scissors, I should stab myself, or I should cut my hair. And then the next thought that comes to our mind is, I am such an idiot. Why in the world am I thinking that? Well, then you're feeding that monster in your head that says you're a terrible person, and they're going to pipe up now for the next 30 to 60 minutes. Every few minutes, they're going to tell you, you're a terrible person. What's the matter with you? Why can't you control your thoughts? You are just broken. You are stupid. I don't even begin to know what to do with you. So do the best you can not to use judgment, labeling, and beating yourself up as a strategy to cope with your intrusive thoughts. Interrupting that pattern of intrusive thoughts takes time. It takes practice. It's like building up a muscle that you have never tried to build up before, and you're going to make mistakes. And it's not going to go smoothly all the time. It's just part of the process. There is no one that goes from 0 to 60 in managing their intrusive thoughts in 24 hours. It just doesn't happen. So don't set yourself up for failure.
I always tell my clients that our recovery is a journey. It's like a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And if you are approaching your recovery from anything, whether it be childhood abuse or self-harm or whatever you're in recovery for, whatever you're recovering from, if you approach it as though it is a sprint and you can wave a wand and have it be one and done, you're going to not only be disappointed, but you will shame yourself for not being quote unquote all better quick enough.
Right.
And we really want you guys to know that while our recovery is a marathon and not a sprint, and that can feel daunting because, oh my gosh, who can do a marathon? I'm just here to tell you, yes, you can. You can do it. I never thought I could do a marathon, and I did it. I trained and I actually completed a marathon, and it was hard, and it was painful, and my hip went out in like the last mile and a half, and it was very, very painful, but I crossed that finish line. And you guys, I'm on the same journey with my recovery. Is it quick? Am I able to wave a wand? Am I able to take a magic pill? Am I able to just work for a little bit and then just, clap my hands and be like, okay, all done? No. But you guys, I'm growing every day. I'm learning and growing, and I'm recovering, and I am noticing the beauty around me and in me more often now than I ever have. It is difficult to recover, but it is possible, and it is very, very worth it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The next strategy is to remind yourself that your thoughts do not define you. Just because you think or feel something stressful or negative doesn't mean that you are a negative person. Thinking I'm terrible doesn't mean you are terrible. It simply means that you're having intrusive thoughts. Okay, so when you go through your day and you have that thought about, I can't do anything right. Okay, that's a thought. It doesn't actually mean that you can't do anything right. It just means that you're having an intrusive thought. So do your best not to allow your thoughts and your feelings to define who you are, because you are so much more. You are a whole, full picture of a person. You are not just you are a collection of intrusive thoughts that flood your mind. Remember that intrusive thoughts are not your fault. Okay? Research shows that they're often due to misfiring in the caudate nucleus part of your brain. Okay, and this is a part of your brain that is like way down in the inner core of your brain. And it has to do with integrating information, memories, decisions, progress. It has to do with a very complex thought processes. It's not anything that kicks into action when we're in fight or flight. It's grabbing something here and something there and something here and something there and putting it all together into an action or thought or a feeling. And sometimes when we experience trauma in our childhood, okay, especially if it's trauma that takes place over many years during that crucial brain development, personality development period of about 3 to 6 years old, it can damage that part of our brain. And then you're going to get just an electrical misfire. It's not going to process and coordinate the information correctly. And so when we have intrusive thoughts, chances are it's due to one of two things. It's due to the lies of our childhood, or it's due to a part of our brain that's not working correctly. Either way, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And again, knowing that and saying that to yourself until you completely own it is a process, but there is nothing in there that involves shaming yourself or judging yourself. It's not your fault. Like many things that have to do with recovery from childhood abuse, it's not your fault. And this is one that when I talked about intrusive thoughts in terms of, we're going to talk to you about some ways that will help you stop the intrusive thoughts or reframe them or retarget your brain. And then I said, we're also going to talk about some ways that will just short circuit the intrusive thoughts before they begin. This is one of these ways. Learning self-compassion, self-worth, and self-love is key to conquering intrusive thinking that consists of negative self-assessments, such as I can't do this anymore, or everyone hates me. And we talk about this a lot. I know, you guys, perhaps it sounds like we're just parroting ourselves over and over again, but self-compassion and truly owning your self-worth is a critical component of recovery from childhood abuse. If you focus on nothing else in your recovery except learning to love yourself, learning to be compassionate with yourself, you will still go incredibly far. So if you're working on your self-compassion and your self-love, then I can guarantee that you will have fewer intrusive thoughts such as, I'm a terrible person, everyone hates me. You're going to stop those in their tracks before they even become intrusive thoughts. Doesn't mean you're never going to have intrusive thoughts, but it means you're not going to have intrusive thoughts of that nature. Okay? And here's where we have to give a caution. Intrusive thinking about self-harm is cause for concern. Okay? Like we talked about earlier, thinking about picking up a knife is not the same as being suicidal. But if you have intrusive thinking about self-harm, it is worth taking note. And we always recommend consulting a helping professional if you have persistent thoughts about self-harm, especially if those persistent thoughts lead to self-harm. Okay? Something that is prevalent in your life, like thinking about cutting, and then it actually leads you to start cutting, to begin cutting. That's a huge time to reach out for help. Another self-harming behavior, which we don't always recognize as a self-harming behavior, is binge eating. If you are sitting there and all you can think about is eating this or eating that, and then you go downstairs or you go to wherever your kitchen is and you load up on food and you sit down and you consume a huge amount of food in a short period of time, that is self-harming. Binge eating is the most lethal of all eating disorders. You need to pay attention to it. You need to recognize that binge eating is self-harming behavior. So when you have those...
We're not talking about like if you guys are having a sweet tooth and you go and you are craving Oreos and so you have 3 Oreos.
No.
And then you feel guilty because you ate the 3 Oreos because you're not supposed to have any sugar. That's not what we're talking about, you guys. No. We're talking about consuming a large amount. Like if you're craving pizza and you feel guilty for craving pizza because you're not supposed to be having any gluten, and you eat a whole large pizza. That is binge eating. Right. That is binge eating, but not if you have a piece of pizza or 2 pieces of pizza. You guys, that's not self-harm.
No. Again, the definition of binge eating is eating a large amount of food in a very short period of time. Okay, that's the definition of binge eating, and it is a self-harming behavior. But 2 or 3 cookies are not. But just our big cause for concern there is if you're having self-harming, intrusive thoughts, and you have a history of following through, or your self-harming, intrusive thoughts distress you, that's time to get help. And the last thing we have here is that there are some medications out there for depression and anxiety that are very helpful for alleviating intrusive thoughts or helping to cut down the number of them. Okay, so maybe they're not going to make them go away entirely, but they're going to drastically reduce the number. So if you have intrusive thinking that is causing you a lot of distress, or that is debilitating you so that you're not able to function the way that you would like, medication is an option. Is medication necessary? Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not. It's an option. It's one of many options that you have available to you while you're recovering from your childhood abuse. So know that that is an option. And it is an option you can choose to pursue with your doctor or with your psychiatrist. Our whole goal is to let you know what options are out there and what you can pursue. And Athena and I always say, and we will always say, it is your recovery. You're in charge. You get to choose what you do. You get to choose what you don't do. And medication is one of the options on the table that you can pursue if you would like to. And that is it.
Yeah.
With the one page.
You guys, I really want to say thank you to all of you who have been tweeting all of your questions and comments and supporting one another. And again, we do this every single week. This is weekly Q&A, and you can tweet us your questions on the weekly topic by using the hashtag #NoMoreShame if you're new to our broadcast and this is your first time here. Right now, we're going to transition into the portion of our broadcast for new people, which we will be putting up a a way for you to get in touch with us personally, a way for you to get plugged into Safe Community if you're new to your recovery journey. And we will be putting up a couple of different slides and inviting you to come into some safe online groups for other survivors that have survived similar situations to yourself. So if you are one of our regulars and you have been here week after week after week for over a year or two, and you're familiar with all of our contact information and how to get in touch with us, and you're already plugged into Safe Community, then we will bid you a very fond aloha, and we love you guys. Feel free to stick around, but we don't want to keep you longer than our hour. We're already a little bit over an hour. So, but if you are new, please, and if you can't stick around for the remainder of the broadcast, down below in the notes, if you're watching the replay, you will be able to find the 4-step process on how to get plugged into Safe Community. Otherwise, Bobby is going to put up a couple of different slides, and we're going to read them, and just for people that are tuning in on a podcast, so you know how they can get in touch with us. So thanks for your attendance, your time, your attention, and all of your interaction and support of one another. As always, you guys are amazing. And I think Bobby has a screen share for us.
I am ready.
Yes, ways to contact us.
Yes. Okay, let me make it bigger because my eyes need bigger. There's Athena and I. Yay. Okay.
That's us in Texas.
Okay, these are ways to connect with us. If you reach out to us via email, we say this every time, and we just beg for your grace, as it may take us a while to get back to you. We do our best to reply within 48 hours, but it is only the two of us doing this, and also working full-time jobs. So we do want to hear from you, but we ask for your patience as we find the time to reply. You can reach me at bobbylparish@gmail.com. You can reach Athena at athenamobergspeaking@gmail.com. And then we have our joint email account, which is nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. We would love to engage with you on Twitter. I am Bobby L. Parrish. Athena is Athena Moberg, and then Trauma Recovery University is Trauma Recovery U. You can also find us on Facebook. There is the Trauma Recovery University page. There is my business page, Bobby Parrish Coaching and Consulting. There's also my personal page, which is Bobby Parrish. And then there is Athena's professional page, which is Athena Moberg Speaking. And her Facebook page for her personal account is Dawn Athena Moberg. You can watch the replays of our broadcasts anytime, 24/7 on YouTube. Just do a search for Trauma Recovery University. On Roku TV, Trauma Recovery University, and on Google Plus, Trauma Recovery University. And then you can watch us every week at bit.ly/Trauma Recovery U. And yes, on that one, the capitals do matter. So hang on with me here while I switch over to the...
You guys, I wanted to just, while Bobby's bringing up the other slide, we have a couple of people that are in crisis and people that are talking about the intrusive thoughts that they have. They're very constant, and parts of them always feel like they want to die, and then they sort of dissociate and then find themselves in the car in the garage. This is cause for concern if this is something that is regular in your life, you guys. So please, please, please pick up the phone right now and dial 1-800-656-HOPE, or log on to RAINN.org. That's RAINN.org. That stands for Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network.org. And if you're in the UK, please email jo@samaritans.org. We don't want to lose any of you guys because of these intrusive thoughts. We don't want to lose any of you because your recovery and the pressure of your recovery is too much to bear. You should not be living in constant pain and constant torment. We want you to have tools and strategies necessary, and we do our best to provide everything we can, but we do have RAIN and Samaritans and other licensed professionals that we can refer you to, because we want you to have the best care possible, healthy, informed trauma recovery. So those of you who I've been tweeting with right now and private messaging with that are struggling with intrusive thoughts to the point where you are seeking to self-harm and then you dissociate and then you find yourself in a precarious situation, perhaps contemplating suicide, please reach out and connect with RAIN immediately. They have a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year chat feature on their website. That's RAINN.org. And we love you, and we are referring you to someone else because we care, and it's for your own good. So please, please, please reach out. Go ahead and share screen, Bobby. Sorry, that was just important.
That is important.
Very important.
Got to find my make bigger button. Ways to join our safe community. We talk a lot about being in safe community, how important that is. We talk a lot about processing things with your safe support people. And safe community for us means someone who will listen to what you have to say. They will not judge you. Instead, they will support you. If you want advice, ideas, thoughts for how to proceed, they can help you brainstorm. If all you want is support, a shoulder to lean on, they can do that too. For us, I have found the most safe community with other survivors. People who have not gone through what we have gone through. It is a rare individual who can be there for me when they haven't gone through that childhood abuse. But it happens. So I don't want to eliminate those people as being available for you as safe community. But when we talk about safe community, that's what we're talking about. Okay? People who will love and support you, not judge you, and they will help you in the way that you are seeking help. Okay? Not all of us want advice. Some of us just want support and a shoulder to lean on as we move forward. We know what we need to do, but we question whether we have the strength to do it. We have multiple ways to engage with safe community with us and our 20,000 plus peeps in 57 different countries. As Athena talked about at the top of the broadcast, we have 3 Twitter chats a week. The first one is Monday. The hashtag is CSAQT. That stands for Child Sexual Abuse Question Time. It is at 10 a.m. Pacific time in the US, 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time in the UK. And then there is this one right now that you are listening into or watching live. That is, the hashtag for that is No More Shame. We go on the air at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, and 2 o'clock in the morning for on Tuesday for those who are in the UK. And then Tuesday evening or early Wednesday morning if you're in the UK, we have our third Twitter chat of the week. The hashtag for that is Sex Abuse Chat. It is at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the morning UK. To watch these video broadcasts live and tweet with us live, just go to bit.ly/trauma recovery U. And Athena has done an absolutely exquisite job of designing a page that has the live video feed in the top and the Twitter stream right below it. So you can engage with us as we go along. And we absolutely love for you to do that. And we have a very active community of people who join us every Monday night. So if you come and if you tweet with us, you will not only receive the support and the education that Athena and I have to offer, but you'll receive it from them as well.
Yeah.
And we really encourage you, even if all you want to do is watch the Twitter stream, that's perfectly okay. Absolutely. The other thing that we have available for you are private Facebook support groups. And we want to give you this 4-step process for getting plugged into one of those support groups. This is by far the easiest, fastest way to get plugged into one of our support groups. If you do it another way, we'll still get you plugged in, but it might take longer.
Also, on that note, Bobby, I received some private Facebook messages, and it just says, "Add me to the group, thanks." And I need you guys to know that that's not how you get added. Like, I'm not saying that you have to like copy and paste, "I'd like to heal in safe community," but we don't just add you. We want you to know that these groups are safe. We have a vetting process. We ask questions. We get to know you. If we are not already familiar with you because you haven't been participating in our weekly events and we have not gotten to know you, yes, our community is huge, like 20,000 people. Yes, it's in 57 countries, but we get to know people. We still get to know people, and we have a vetting process, and no one just gets willy-nilly admitted into a group. Like, that's not the way it works. So please, 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 as Bobby always says every week, be patient with us and understand and try your best to not be offended when we ask you very private questions with regards to your abuse or your recovery, or where you're at in your journey, because those are the types of questions that we need to ask if you are going to be admitted into a safe community. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for survivors to comprehend that predators make attempts to get into our groups. They do. And so we have to be careful. And Athena and I, by being diligent, have been able to stop the majority of the predators that want to join our group. So when we ask you questions, it's not because we're trying to be nosy or intrusive. It's because we are very serious about protecting the safety of the people in our groups. They talk, they're there, they're vulnerable, they talk about horrible, horrible things. The last thing we want to do is introduce a predator into their safe space, and we won't do that if there's any way that we could stop it from happening. So please understand when we ask you questions that it's not an automatic process, but by the same token, we're not going to ask for your social security number and copies of blank checks either. So,
no. No.
Okay, so here's the 4-step process. The first one is to like Trauma Recovery University's page. The second is to send us a friend request on our personal Facebook accounts that we gave you on the slideshow page just before this. We would love to become your friend. Send a personal friend. Oh my goodness, tongue, brain work together. Send us a friend request to our personal page. Send one to both Athena and I, because sometimes one of us can get to you before the other one. And then after we have accepted you as a friend, send us a message that says, "I would like to heal in safe community. I would like to join one of your support groups for survivors of childhood abuse." And then be patient with us if we ask you questions. Now, if we know you because you've been attending our events, then chances are high we're not going to ask you questions. But if we don't know you, then we will. And then after we get the information that we need, we will plug you into one of our groups. So don't send us a message before we accepted your friend request, because then it goes into that infamous other folder that gives us no notifications that we have new messages, and they just tend to sit there until they ferment.
Oh my gosh, I had a guy named Mike reach out to me in December, and I didn't get the message until, I want to say it was like last week. Anyway, I sent him a message apologizing to him, asking if he would please forgive me, but I haven't heard back yet, so I feel bad.
Maybe your message went into his other folder.
Maybe.
Since you're not friends.
I know.
Okay, golly gosh, I think that's it. So Twitter, chats, and Facebook group, and how you can contact us.
Wonderful.
There
you guys, this has been so wonderful, you guys. I just want to say thank you. I want to just say thank you to each of you who show up here every single week and who are active members in our community, and you intentionally reach out and support one another. I want to put out two things right now as we close this broadcast. Number one, if you know of any support groups or a similar national organization to like the Samaritans or RAIN that is available in Australia, could you please email me? All of our contact information, if you just rewind the video just for a couple moments, is right there. But we have a growing community in Australia and a couple of people that are in crisis. And I just want to know if anyone has any information on who to reach out to in Australia or Australia and New Zealand or whoever. That would mean a lot to me. And secondly, we've had a lot going on in our community. There's been some health concerns. There's been some things going on. And there was a delay in me sending out our survey that is for all abuse survivors to participate to update the stats so that in your local area you can receive safe support. And this is on a global scale. We launched it here in the US, but there's over 100 countries participating. If you remember me talking about that, and I told you I'd be emailing you last week, I didn't email you last week. You haven't received an email from me. But there will be an email coming out right after you watch this video, probably after you watch this replay, and you should receive it in the next couple of days. So please hit the like button on this video, share it with someone. I'll see if we can put the survey information down in the notes below the video as well. But if you're on our email list, you'll be receiving a link. It'll take you a few minutes to do the survey. This survey updates all of the data for all different types of abuse in all the different states. There's nothing to read. Siri thinks that I'm talking to her and like wanting her to like answer a question. I'm not talking to you, Siri. I'm talking to all of our peeps at No More Shame. So I love that I'm talking to my telephone like she can hear me. But no, so you guys, this survey means so much to me. And the people we've partnered with, they're an anti-human trafficking organization. But human trafficking doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, look, over there's people being trafficked. No, there are different indicators. And usually those indicators are the different types of abuse on the abuse wheel that we've talked about. And so if you are an abuse survivor, which you are if you're watching this channel, please take this survey. It'll just be a few moments out of your time. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't get paid any type of money. No one makes anything off of this. It's just to update the data. And when the data is updated, this national organization is holding different counties and states and cities and different legislatures accountable and saying, oh, look, you can allocate this much towards making this program available because the statistics in your area and your zip code were this for this type of abuse. So yes, that's fast forwarding, a year, 2, 5, 10, whatever, but your voice matters and your voice is going to be heard, and you could make a difference in future generations and even in this one. So please consider taking the survey. That's my little plug. I know I've been talking about it now for about a month, but I am going to be sending out the email. You will be receiving it, I swear. And it will be very brief, and it won't be a lot of flowery nonsense. You'll just have to like click. So just wanted to update you all on that. Bobby, that was it for my public service announcements. I really should have talked about that in the beginning of the video, and I didn't.
That's okay. We can remind people next week. And just so you know, next week's topic is going to be cognitive distortion, which is a little bit related to intrusive thinking, but and again, cognitive distortions are something that many people deal with, not just survivors, but because of our childhood abuse, we are particularly prone to them, and they can be particularly destructive in our lives. So we're going to unpack that one and talk about what they are and how do we fix them, change them, see them, stop them, change them, right?
Yes. Cognitive distortions, not to be confused with cognitive dissonance.
No, that's right.
Not to be confused with. Similar, but definitely not the same, and a lot of different ingredients. But you guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for always just being so supportive. This is the highlight of our week. You guys are the reason we show up every week. So thank you for the honor and the privilege to serve you, this community. If you are an adult survivor of childhood abuse, childhood sexual abuse, narcissistic parents, thank you for supporting the work that we do and for sharing this video and hitting the like button. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. I'm Athena Mobrick, and this is Bobby Parrish, and we love bringing you everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery.